Roger, you were a lawyer, you were trained as a lawyer, you saw the development of Israeli policy towards the occupied territories, you saw the way in which settlements were likely to develop. Can you tell us about your use of the law to oppose this and what you think, or what you think the limits of the law are in these circumstances, based on your experience?
There was a question with us at Al-Haq in the beginning, whether or not to resort to the Israeli legal system. Because one argument went that by going to the Israeli High Court and having this matter, we legalize the process. But at the same time, it was clear that if we had the possibility of a legal resort, we should use it and see what happens. And the decision was to go through any legal process and see how what happened. And so we did take many cases to the High Court. We resorted to the legal advisor. We used what was called the military tribunals for civilian matters as much as we could. But I think the best illustration that I could think of how things go is the one that I used in the story I tell in the course of the second walk in the Palestinian walks, which is the Albina case. The Albina case was a very good case, and I thought it would be one case that I'd be able to really win. This was a man who had a land which was not fully, I mean, the whole process of land registration has been going on in Palestine, in geographic Palestine, from 1927. And in Israel it was completed in 48. Jordan continued with the process in the area that was under Jordan. In 1967 everything was stopped, and at that moment only a third of the entire West Bank was fully registered. The land of Albina was in an area which was registered, but there was one final step in the registration process, which is the entry of the registration into the schedules that are in the land, which wasn't complete. And so we had very good documents. And in the course of that case, the military went through all the usual justifications they give, or defenses, that the land belonged to an absentee. We said he's not an absentee because he's here. That the land is public land. We said no, it's private land, and these are the documents to prove it. Sorry. That the land was expropriated by the Jordanian army because there's an army post not far from it. We said that was not the case. The Jordanian army expropriated land further down, and here are the documents, but did not include in its expropriation order Albina's land. So it was a very strong case. And the judge, it so happened, was somebody who was really a colleague, because we both represented the British consulate. And so he was very embarrassed to be judging, and this he did as part of his military training. And he tried very hard to convince me to settle. I said, no, we are going to pursue this to the end. And at the end of this long process, when we presented all kinds of documents, we won to the extent that it is one of the rare cases when a military tribunal accepted that the land is private land and not public land, as is usually claimed. However, they said that since when the transaction was made by the Jewish agency to lease the land to the settlers, they believed in good faith that the land was public land. Transaction stands. I knew, I had anticipated this and said there can be no good faith when they have the possibility of checking all the documents, just as I was checking them, and they didn't. Therefore, they could not have had good faith. But this was not accepted. And at the end of the day, the settlement was built. And at the end of the second walk, I visit the settlement and describe its relationship to the village and what it has done to the village and what it has done to the area, and the roads that were built through the hills that destroyed so many beautiful valleys and cliffs and hills, and the effect of the settlements, which are supposed to be of people who care for the land, who say they have a great love and attachment to the land. The destruction that they've done to the land is just tremendous and horrendous.